Sun Tzu was a Chinese military general, believed to have served King Helu of Wu about 2,500 years ago. He is primarily credited as the author of the strategy book The Art of War. However, the style of writing reflects a later date, so some speculate that his descendant Sun Bin may have written it some 300 years later. Which is entirely possible considering language and styles can change dramatically over such a period and may have been updated for the contemporary audience. Certainly, Sun Tzu, which means Master Sun, is still considered to be the primary author, and so we will look a little at his history. His birth is mentioned in one of the oldest historical texts in China, the Spring and Autumn Annals, covering the spring and autumn period between 800 BC and 200 BC approximately, as well as the records of the great historian or the Shiji by Sima Qian, born in the state of Qi and became active as a general of King Helu of Wu around 512 BC. However, before taking him into service, it is reported that the king gave Sun Tzu a task to test his skills by commanding him to train a harem of 180 concubines into soldiers. Sun Tzu divided them into 2 companies, appointing the 2 concubines most favoured by the king as the company commanders. When Sun Tzu first ordered the concubines to face right, they giggled. In response, Sun Tzu said that the general, in this case himself, was responsible for ensuring that soldiers understood the commands given to them. Then he reiterated the command, and again the concubines giggled. Sun Tzu then ordered the execution of the king's 2 favoured concubines to the king's protests. He explained that if the general's soldiers understood their commands but did not obey, it was the fault of the officers. Sun Tzu also said that once a general was appointed, as it was his duty to carry out his mission, even if the king protested. After both concubines were killed, new officers were chosen to replace them. Afterward, both companies, now well aware of the cost of further frivolity, performed their manoeuvres flawlessly. I have to say that it's kind of a bit much. You would think that, a warning of consequences of not obeying would have gone out first. But I don't know. I'm not a general, but, it just seems a bit harsh and, well. Anyway, after some success in the battlefield, it's believed he then went on to write The Art of War, which Sima Qian goes on to state that he then proved was effective, for example, in the Battle of Boju. Unfortunately, an earlier text does not place Sun Tzu at this battle, creating some confusion over the matter. Indeed, by the 12th century AD, speculation began that he may not have existed at all, as another historical document predating the Shiji also has no mention of Sun Tzu at all, and it is speculated that it may have been a nickname for another hero, a Chinese general, Wu Yun. However, Sun Tzu is still credited as the author, and it is speculated that as the book was handed down through time, it may have been added to and updated. This is supported by weapons and tactics that would not have been available to Sun Tzu during the time that he himself was alive. The writing of The Art of War is, in effect, a philosophy of war for managing conflicts and winning battles, and was one of 6 military texts written before the unification of China, and to survive the book burning in the 2nd century BC. And those 6 books were then combined into one book called The 7 Military Classics. Yes, there was another book. The 7th book was a Tang text, which was much younger. So you've got the 7 military classics, which then became the definitive strategy text which one had to read and pass tests on for future military positions. Mao Zedong credited The Art of War for his victory over Chiang Kai-shek, and it influenced Mao's writing on guerrilla warfare as well as communist insurgencies around the world. And the seagulls are agreeing with me. The modern Chinese Communist Party has also made full use of this work in their ambition to become a superpower, and scholars see a direct relationship between their struggles and those of China in Sun Tzu's time. I find it kind of ironic, as a side note to this, that you have the Chinese Communist Party making use of a very old book, an ancient book, in fact, over 2,000 years old, when actually one of the premises of communism is to destroy everything that's old. In fact, you have the Cultural Revolution, back in the 70s, I think the Cultural Revolution, it went on for about 10 years. It devastated so much of Chinese history. But anyway, they kept hold of The Art of War, I suppose, because Mao Zedong was using it, so it's justified. But still, it has to be said, it's kind of ironic how they turned to something old. Okay, so to continue, by around 760 AD, the art of war had made its way to Japan, where it quickly became popular among the Japanese generals, samurai, daimyos, and shoguns, and it went on to have significant influence in the unification of Japan in the early modern era. Admiral Heihachiro, who led the Japanese to victory in the Russo-Japanese War, was an avid reader of Sun Tzu. In Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh translated the work for his officers to study, and it's credited with helping them to win against the French and the Americans. In the West, though, the work has not been fully understood, in large part due to the cultural differences between the Christian world and the Taoist world views, and so its employment has been limited, that we know of. However, in the US military, it is on the list of books to be present in all libraries on every base. In popular Western culture, it primarily took root in the Hollywood movie Wall Street, where the protagonist quotes The Art of War regularly through the film. So there's a generation of where this book came to the forefront, and but now, today, I'm not sure how much it's actually used. Gen Z, The Art of War, I don't know. I kind of think that would be funny if they did actually know about The Art of War. But Gen Z is out there. I absolutely encourage you to read this book. There are 13 chapters in the book, covering all aspects from planning, strategy, tactics, to army on the march, 9 situations, use of spies, with each verse explaining the previous in more detail to ensure understanding. For example, chapter 6 starts with addressing weak points as follows. Verse 1, whoever is first in the field and awaits the coming of the enemy will be fresh for the fight. Whoever is second in the field and has to hasten to battle will arrive exhausted. Verse 2, therefore the clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. So then by verse 8, it's saying, hence that general is skillful in attack whose opponent does not know what to defend, and he is skillful in defence whose opponent does not know what to attack. Verse 9, O divine art of subtlety and secrecy, through you we learn to be invisible, through you inaudible, and hence we can hold the enemy's fate in our hands. I'm not an expert on the Vietnam War, however, what I do know about the Viet Cong strategy sounds a lot like these 2 paragraphs. But if you are into military strategy, gaming, or writing novels, this book is definitely one you want in your reference arsenal. It's to the point, and depending on your translation, explanations can shed light on meaning where it might otherwise be obscure. Whether Sun Tzu wrote the book or not, or rather started the process of the book being written, is almost immaterial, because what we have today is a body of knowledge that's indispensable and can be applied to any aspect of life, not just war. If you want something, using the wisdom in this book as your framework, you will inevitably get what it is that you want. I would only caution you on who you label as enemy or adversary, and not to lose your empathy along the way. The mystique of a legendary warrior of old being the single source of knowledge adds to the respect with which we should treat such a text. Thank you for tuning into this video. Please remember to like and subscribe for further videos.